Yes, it's a festive edition of the West Cork League podcast with me, your host, Ger McCarthy, and my partner in crime, really probably shouldn't be calling him that, it's not very nice, the hard-working PRO of the West Cork League, Mike Helen. Delighted to have you back on. Mike, how are you?
Very good, Ger. Thanks for having me back. I thought I was finished now for the last 2 weeks, but we'll crack on again this week.
No, very important to have more than one droning voice, my own droning voice. Trust me, it's been mentioned to me, so it's good to have you back. Obviously, we have a reduced number of games to talk about because of the horrible weather over the last couple of weekends. But we're going to start with something very interesting, and that's transfer talk, something that's not often spoken about in West Cork League circles. But we have had a couple of interesting transfers, and one very significant one that may well affect the top of the Premier HighSpecCars.com Premier Division.
Yeah, I suppose we all know that the transfer window is now open in the West Cork League, so there's always going to be a few lads jumping around the place. But one of the biggest ones there would be Johnny Kelly now is after transferring to the Dunmanway Town, so an absolute huge addition to the town, and it'll really strengthen their cause now going for a league and the Beamish Cup. We all know Johnny was a Tor Celtic man, an absolute brilliant player, and a fantastic signing for Dunmanway Town. So they have a squad of serious stars this season, so it'll only strengthen the town going forward, and it'll boost their chances now going forward for the league and the cup.
Yeah, he is a very, very talented player, and by West Cork League standards, he'd be up there with amongst the best strikers in the league. I'm thinking of the Barry Hawthorns at Dreen, and I'm thinking off the top of my head, Johnny Lee when he's on form for Clonakilty Town. There's a few in Bunratty, and there's plenty in Ballydehob, Mark Cronin as well. He's in that group though, Mike, and that's not understating the kid or the boy's talents.
No, 100%. Yeah, he's one of the top players in the West Cork League. There's no doubt about it. Like we could see it with Tor Celtic for years. He was their main man up top striker for Tor, and he used to score a lot of Tor Celtic goals. But I think I can remember Johnny Collins in Tor. He'd often move him into centre midfield when they felt like they were being overrun in the middle, and he was doing a brilliant job in centre mid. So like he's a versatile player, and a huge addition to Dunmanway Town.
Yeah, and a loss potential. Like it would have been a big boost for Tor Celtic, but obviously Dunmanway have gotten in there. That's the way the transfer game works. Any other big moves or any other moves from players in other teams and divisions, Mike?
Yeah, so I think there's two more, and we'll head west for these. Ger Callan is now a Mizzen player, transferred from Bunratty. He was George played for Mizzen for a couple of seasons, went back to Bunratty. Now he's gone back to Mizzen again. We all know Ger Callan, absolute fantastic player, serious speed. And if we're talking about talented players in the West Cork League, Ger Callan would have to be up there near the top. He's played two games now for Mizzen. I think he's on the score sheet a couple of times as well. So Mizzen couldn't have asked for a better player to join their squad, especially when they're going pushing Spartak now and going for the O'Brien Water Services Championship. So look, Ger's going to get a lot of goals for Mizzen. Mizzen are going to be very, very dangerous to play against when you've got a threat like Ger. Ger's speed is quite unbelievable, and a fantastic signing for the Mizzen.
Yeah, and an experienced player. And like I've seen Mizzen, you've seen Mizzen already this season. They're already a very, very good team, and that's a serious statement of intent heading into the second half of the season and going for the championship neck and neck at the moment, of course, with Spartak Musgrove. And any other transfer just to finish up this section, Mike? Yeah,
JP Reen is after transferring back to Skibbereen from Ballydehob. He's a short spell with Ballydehob this year, and he's after transferring back. He played and scored for Skibbereen last week, 2 weeks ago, against Baltimore. So I know for a fact the lads in Skibbereen are absolutely delighted to have JP Reen back. Again, a fantastic player, and a player that Skibbereen badly needed back in their ranks, I feel. So they're the three main transfers that's after going on the West Cork League so far. No, I'm sure there's many more, but they would be the top profile players.
Well, we're just thinking there, like come transfer deadline day, we may have to do a special podcast or even a video cast and wear the old yellow ties. How do you feel about that?
I'll have to do a Harry Redknapp on it and put down the car window. It's all right.
Jeez, there's a thought. All right, so look, we'll return to this. Any more transfer talk that we have, of course, we'll mention at the start of each of the podcasts from here until the end of January. But it's time to turn our attention to last weekend's results, and disappointingly, the weather absolutely decimated a fixture list that everyone obviously was disappointed. The big game, of course, the Manway and Drina, didn't go ahead, but lots of other games fell by the wayside. But the correct decision, considering the poor weather, to try and save the pitches heading into Christmas and the New Year. But on Sunday, the 15th of December, thankfully, the Lake House Beauty Room Sevens, all three games went ahead on their AstroTurf pitches, and all three were significant. The one, I suppose, Mike, at the top of that list were the league leaders, Drina Rangers AFC, taking on their club mates, Drina Women's FC, and a cracking game it turned out to be.
Yeah, it was a cracking game, 2-1 to AFC. With Katie Bottomer and Roisin O'Driscoll on the scoreline for AFC, and Caroline Bottomer on the scoreline for Drina FC. A huge day for Drina to, first of all, to have two women's teams in the West Cork women's team, and facing each other over Dunmanway was a great day for the club. It was always going to be a close battle, I suppose, between the two clubs or between the two teams, and a show there with a 2-1 win over AFC, and they keep rolling on top of the league, but with AFC not too far behind them. But fantastic for Drina Rangers. They're flying it in the under-19. They were doing very well, flying it in the Premier Division, and their two women's team now doing very well in the women's as well. So look, fantastic for the club, and it was a good game by all accounts, but AFC just shading it.
Yeah, and that's AFC's fifth win out of 5. They've only conceded 2 goals, but an even more significant result, I think, from last weekend, Mike, was the defending champions Enter Kinmare, because they had to win to keep pace with Drina, and Dunmanway Town Women's, in fairness to them, put it up to them by all accounts, but Enter Kinmare coming out on top there. Yeah,
Inter Kinmare, I suppose, probably felt if anyone was going to stop Drina Women's AFC, it would have been Drina FC, seeming it was the derby between the two clubs, or between the two teams of the one club. So, they probably were hoping that there was going to be a slip up there, but knew that they had to win as well. With Crystal Campbell with 2 and Linda Toomey scoring for Kinmare. So look, that was a good win for Kinmare against a very strong Dunmanway side. So yeah, into Kinmare keep the pressure on Drina, and Drina are keeping the pressure on Kinmare as well. So it's very entertaining at the moment for the Women's League.
Yeah, and just to round it off, Bantry Bay Rovers getting their second win of the year, a 5-0 defeat of a new Ulta Celtic side.
Yeah, a big win for Bay Rovers there, with Emily Barrett scoring 2 for them. Helen Martin, Jeff Keller and Lauren O'Driscoll on the score sheet. Big win for Bay Rovers, keeps them moving up the league, and keeps the momentum going for Ulta Celtic. Ulta Celtic still have to get going, but fair play to Ulta. You spoke to them, Ger, at the launch. There's girls in Ulta Celtic that are started playing this year, never played soccer before, and they're thoroughly enjoying it. So it's great to hear, and it's great to see the numbers for Ulta Celtic coming out every week.
It is, and that's really the key thing here, that the momentum gained from playing. It takes about a year when you're new to the game just to get your bearings, men or women. I've seen it at schoolboys and schoolgirls league level as well. But once you've got a year and a full season under the belt, from then on you improve and results improve, and I've no doubt Ulta will do that. But those results following last weekend's games on December the 15th, what that means for the West Cork League Lake House Beauty Room Women's Sevens table: Drina Rangers AFC top of the table, maximum points 15 from 5. Enter Kinmare moving into second place now, 2 points behind on 13, and then a couple of clubs to keep an eye on: Drina Women's FC on 12 and Beara AFC Women's on 10. And the bottom half of that table sees Bantry Bay Rovers, Beara Women's, Dunmanway Town and Ulta looking to improve in the second half of the campaign. On to the coming weekend and the fixtures that we have for Saturday, December the 21st and Sunday, December the 22nd. At the moment, of course, all depends on the weather and how the weather goes and the forecast for the weekend. So the best thing to do when it comes to these fixtures, we'll give them to you now. But the West Cork League website is really the best place to go. Also, the West Cork League's Twitter account at West Cork League, on Facebook and on YouTube as well. You can get all these podcasts, but on Facebook and on Facebook and Twitter, and the website itself. You get all the latest updates on any games that are postponed. We start on Saturday, the 21st of December. One game in the Under-19 West Cork League, which has proven a hugely entertaining league this year, but it's a significant one, and that's a game between Ardfield and Toher Celtic. Now, I've seen Toher already this year. Very, very, very good team. I haven't had an opportunity to see Ardfield just yet. But in terms of the Under-19 League, Mike, Ardfield have played 5 times. They've only won twice. But a win for Toher here at the showgrounds would put them joint level with Dunmanway heading into Christmas and the New Year. So there's a big onus on them to go and get a result here.
Yeah, a big onus on Toher Celtic to go and get a result, as you already said there, Ger. If they win, they'll go level on points with Dunmanway Town, but they've 2 games in hand. So, it'll be a fantastic way to go into the festive season for Toher Under-19s, being level with their rival, but having a game in hand. Now, saying that, we know that Ardfield is a tough. They're tough at home. They are already after beating Drina Rangers at home this season. So Ardfield won't be any pushovers at home. So it's going to be a very tough assignment for Toher Celtic. It's sure to be entertaining, but I wouldn't write off Ardfield. I think Ardfield fancy themselves at home, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ardfield pulled a shocker here on Saturday.
Interesting. We'll see how that one goes. There are 2 games in the West Cork League Championship Cup. A preliminary round game between Kilbrittain Rovers FC and Mizzen, and a first round game between Castleack and Castletown Celtic, if I'm not mistaken. They're meeting in the Beamish Cup as well, I think, Mike.
That's correct, yeah. So we'll have a little preview here now in the West Cork League Championship Round 1. Castleack, Castletown, Celtic. Both these teams are going to be competing for the Division 2 Cup as well. So they're going to be meeting each other for another 3 or 4 times, I'd say. They'll have to meet each other home and away in the league, in the Championship Cup and in the Beamish Cup. So they're going to know each other fairly well. It's going to be a good curtain raiser to Beamish Cup. See how it goes. Castleack, after having a good win at home last game they played was Kilbrittain. They beat Kilbrittain 2-1, and apparently they went down to Mizzen and they put up to the Mizzen. Although they lost 2-0, they were very, very competitive on Castletown Celtic. Castletown Celtic are always a cup team. They're very tough in the Beamish Cup, and they'll be tough in this Championship Cup as well. So it's a tough assignment for Castleack. Castletown Celtic will fancy themselves going there, but as I said, Castleack are improving at home.
Yeah, and that other game between Kilbrittain and Mizzen, Mike, just quickly. I mean, Mizzen are obviously on a roll, and that's a tough one for Kilbrittain, even though they're at home.
It's a tough one at Kilbrittain, but it's actually very dangerous fixture for Mizzen because the young Bunratty team went over to Kilbrittain last week, the week before, and they beat Kilbrittain, so Kilbrittain would have lost at home, so they'll be looking now to get their season back on track. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one for Mizzen, especially when they're pushing for the league, pushing Spartak all the ways. So that'll be a very, very interesting interesting fixture in the cup. So you often see teams that are struggling in the league. They always go on a good cup run. So it'll be interesting to see how Kilbrittain do against Mizzen.
Well, indeed, that's a tough one to call, and they played each other. A report on it for the Star recently. It was a cracking game of football, considering it's the championship. I don't think that's going to be an easy one for Mizzen, but we'll see how that one goes. One big game in the Gareth O'Driscoll Cup, a quarter-final between 2 of the Premier Division's finest attacking teams. Clonakilty Town at home to Doris. How do you see this one going, Mike?
Tough one. I suppose, speaking from experience of playing with my own club for so long, we always find it very tough going over to Dara College. We hardly ever come out with the 3 points there, and I think Doris are the same. I think Ty Sullivan was saying that he finds it very hard to get 3 points over there as well. Clontown are very, very tough at home. Gareth O'Driscoll Cup is a Clontown Cup, as we all know, and Clon will be wanting to go all the way this year, and it'd be sweet for them to win that cup for their ex-chairman. So I can see, it depends on the Doris team. Doris haven't been full strength all year. I think he's missing 7 or 8 players from the team that beat Drina in the Parkway Cup last year, so they're very under strength this year. If they turn up, when they're coming up to Christmas time, a lot of clubs have all their players back. So if Doris have all their players going up to Clontown, I wouldn't be surprised if Doris beat them.
Yeah, that should be a cracker. It'll be an interesting one too, as you said, depending on the strength of both teams. That could potentially go to extra time and beyond it, even penalties to decide that one. And a good cup game if you're on Clonakilty next Sunday morning. Now we turn finally to the Premier HighSpecCars.com Premier Division. Two fixtures currently known for decision on Sunday. Bunratty United and Dunmanway Town. When you look at it on paper, Mike, you're seeing the bottom two teams in the Premier High-Spec Cars division. Obviously, Dunmanway have played are way behind in a number of games. They're trying to catch up. But Bunratty's win in the Cup a couple of weeks ago will give them a nice boost, but enough to stop Dunmanway on their home pitch?
You probably say no, Ger, but in our previous podcast, when you spoke to the Dunmanway captain, he was speaking about when they went over there last year in the league, they didn't have it their own way at all. Bunratty didn't have anything to play for at that stage of the year, and they really did put it up to Dunmanway Town. So with a young Bunratty side after beating Kilbritton, they'll be confident. They're going well in the under 19s. Again, they might have extra players around for the Christmas period, and it won't be easy for Dunmanway Town. But look, you'd expect Dunmanway Town to come out with 3 points there, but it will be closer than people think, I feel.
Yeah, never easy. As you know yourself, going to Scotland at any stage in any competition, and I know Bunratty will be looking for a scalp there. But the big game of the weekend, once again, pretty obvious this one as well. The league leaders, Drina Rangers, 2 points clear of Ballyhob and 6 points clear of Clonakilty Town, head to Lyre. Lyre Rovers have only picked up 7 points so far this season. They're languishing near the bottom of the table, or the bottom half of the table. Now, obviously, a victory for Lyre at home there would move them up into joint 4th place, but a win for Drina would give them some daylight heading into the Christmas period between Ballyhob and Clontown. Anytime I've seen these two teams play, be it in Cannon Crawley Park or be it in Knockshka, it's always a quality game. Always a quality game. And a repeat of the Beamish Cup final from a couple of years ago as well. Where is this going to be won and lost, Mike?
Yeah, two very good teams, and I suppose the history fixtures between these two teams show that there's always going to be, an entertaining game of soccer. Drina Rangers, they're flying it in the Munster Junior Cup, flying in the league. They're going to be very hard to stop. But in saying that, I think Lyre Rovers are where they are in the league because they were missing so many players at the start of the season due to GA and other commitments. Since they've got all their players back, they're a fine team. They're very tough to play against. We played against them 2 weeks ago there in the league in brutal conditions, and they've got fine players and are well able to put up to any team in the Premier Division. So when they're at home on a nice surface, a good pitch, they'll be very hard to stop. Where is it going to be won and lost? I think it's going to be won and lost, I'd say, up. Just depends on Barry Hawthorne. What way he plays against the Lyre back four. The centre mid for Lyre Rovers are excellent. Garrod Barry there is an absolute super player inside the middle. Very, very, very intelligent on the ball. And if they can get Garrod Barry into the game, and leave him dictate the game, Drina Rangers could be in trouble, but I think Drina will probably just have too much on the day for them.
Yeah, that promises to be a cracking game, all right, on Sunday. Hopefully it will go ahead now and the weather will stick, not just for that game, but for all this weekend's fixtures. But if you're looking for what could be a very, very important game, and a tricky one for Drina, they never get it easy in Lyre, that's the place to be on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So that's about it for this section of the podcast. I want to say thanks to Mike for joining us again. I'm looking forward. We'll probably do a Christmas one just before Christmas next week. But Mike, thanks for your time and we'll talk to you again soon.
No problem. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, so before we finish this week's podcast, a special interview now with Bantry Bay Rovers under-14 manager Steve Bowden after the Cailkill club were drawn out to play Airtricity League of Ireland and legendary club Shamrock Rovers in a glamour Skechers SFAI under-14 National Cup round tie in the new year. Now, Bantry Bay Rovers have a thriving underage section, and this is the second time in 3 years that this particular group have managed to emerge from the Cork section of the National Cup, where all the different provinces, all the best teams from the provinces, when they emerge from each of the 4 provinces, there's 32 teams left. It's a straight draw all the way to the final, and this time around Bantry Bay Rovers were the last team drawn out in the actual draw last weekend, but they know and they now know that they will face one of the most famous clubs in Irish soccer history and beyond, and certainly well known outside of Ireland as well, Shamrock Rovers Academy side. So that's going to be a fantastic occasion for Steve Bowden, for the squad, and for the parents and everybody involved. There's no date fixed just yet, but they do know it will be either January 25th or 26th when Bantry Bay Rovers travel up to Dublin to take on Shamrock Rovers in the last 32 of the Skechers SFA Under-14 National Cup. And that squad, just before we hear from Steve, that Bantry Bay Rovers squad is Ben Clancy, Greg Mulhall, Jack Crowley, Shane Collins, Philip Harrington, Killian O'Sullivan, Christopher Cronin, Dara Sheedy, Tom O'Connor, Owen Bowden, Eli Reynolds, Calvin Cronin, Cian Keller, John Mulhall, Colin Cronin and Ollie Cronin. So here's Steve Bowden, the manager of Bantry Bay Rovers, on the news that his young team are heading to Dublin in January to face none other than Shamrock Rovers. Steve Bowden of Bantry Bay Rovers, can you remember your exact reaction when the name Shamrock Rovers was drawn and then Bantry Bay Rovers for the last 32 of the SFAI National Cup?
It's just absolute excitement for the lads. For them to be able to say that they're going to play Shamrock Rovers is just great, and it's great for the club. It was amazing, and to be called out last in the draw, it gave us heart attacks a bit. But it was, like I say, it's just amazing for the boys, to be honest.
You've had a very good run to get out of Cork. For people who don't know, to get out of the Cork section of the National Cup between the West Cork and Cork Schoolboys League clubs is an achievement in itself. But this team has a lot of quality, has a lot of experience of Skechers SFAI National Cup action down through the years. So I suppose this is a good reward for the lads, considering what they've done to get to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the second time in 3 years we've qualified for the 32s. And the boys have just been fantastic all season, and they seem to be getting stronger all the time. We have a certain way of playing. The boys all know that. We've played the same way since I've started, so certainly the last 2 or 3 years. So they know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and it's working for us. And they've got a brilliant attitude. The Kilworth game, 2-0 down at half time, could have been 3-0, but Ben saved the penalty. And to come back and win that in the last minute was just amazing. So yeah, they have a good fighting quality about them as well, but they're great footballers.
Bantry Bay Rovers are looking good underage with the amount of players playing across the age groups from under 12 right up to under 16, under 19. This will be a lovely bonus now for the club heading into Christmas and the New Year.
Yeah, listen, the response so far I've had since last night from members of the club and parents has just been amazing. And the club itself is in a great place. We've got over 100 kids down at the academy, from under 7s up to under 11s. We've got the academy under 11s playing the under 12s in friendly games, and we're all trying to play a certain type of football. So the club is looking strong, and for this draw, for Bay Rovers to be mentioned in the same breath as Shamrock Rovers at the moment is just great for the club. Obviously, the 16 lads in the squad, we had training this morning and they were absolutely buzzing. So we've actually got some games before the Shamrock Rovers game that we have to be aware of. But yeah, listen, it's great for the club, and the way that the direction the club are going in is great reward for them, really.
And the fact it might have been nice to bring Shamrock Rovers to West Cork, but besides that, the fact that you're going up at the end of January for a weekend probably, or an overnight before you play them, I mean that in itself will be exciting for the lads and for the parents and supporters.
Absolutely, that's what the boys wanted, and it's obviously what the parents want, going on the response of since yesterday. We played Athlone a couple of years ago, St Francis up in Athlone a couple of years ago, and staying in the hotel the night before was the big thing, really. From my point of view, if we brought them down to Bay Rovers, where we got at the moment no changing rooms and no toilets, that would have been a bit of an eye-opener for them. And maybe a little bit of a leveller. But listen, it is what it is, and it's great for all of us to be going up there and just seeing the club, really, seeing the pitches and see how they play. And fingers crossed there won't be too much between us.
That's the thing. I mean, obviously you're playing a League of Ireland club and a League of Ireland academy, so in terms of the pick that they have in the Dublin area and the Shamrock Rovers name, like, I wouldn't even call you underdogs, Steve, because this is really David versus Goliath. But you have some good footballers. You've got 16 good footballers there, and they certainly won't disgrace themselves.
No, not at all, and I'm certainly not worried about that. And I think, like I say, we have a way of playing. I've got 6 or 7 lads in the West Cork League, Schoolboys League team, and I've got other boys in my squad that possibly, if they went for it, would have had a very good chance of getting into that squad as well. But they're all good footballers. There's no one that thumps the ball from back to front. So they're intelligent kids, and like I say, with their attitude of never wanting to lose a game or coming off the pitch without giving 100% is great to watch them. And like I say, the Kilworth game in the last round, that was amazing. And you could see the attitude from all the boys. There was no way they were going to come off that pitch losers. So yeah, I'm certainly not worried about going up and playing Shamrock Rovers. It's 2 teams of 13-year-old kids. But like I said, we play good football, and I'm confident in the boys.
Yeah, Steve Bowden there, manager of Bantry Bay Rovers under 14s, and what an exciting time for that young group of players and their supporters and their parents and everybody associated with the Kilkill Club. Fantastic work being done on the ground there, and they're thriving under 8 section, and they are rewarded with a trip to play Shamrock Rovers in the new year in the National Cup, and we will be keeping a close eye on them when that comes around. That's all there is for this week's podcast. I want to say thanks to Steve Bowden, obviously, for agreeing to the interview, and to Mike Helen, back on again, as you heard earlier on the podcast. Thanks again to everybody for the feedback, positive as always, and good to see the numbers still staying quite high and a lot of people enjoying it, not just in Ireland but beyond these shores, and people who used to live in West Cork living further beyond now in America and Canada and places like that. Great to know that you're tuning in and enjoying the podcast. So that's about it for this week. Remember, if you want to follow the West Cork League, you can go to the westcorkleague.com website. You can follow the West Cork League on Twitter at West Cork League, and also the same name for their Facebook page. In print every week in both the Echo and the Southern Star. And remember, the podcast is back every week. Myself and Mike Kennan will be back for one more final podcast Christmas week, with a final Christmas edition, looking ahead to the new year and reflecting on what's been an amazing year already in West Cork League soccer circles. So it's all that's left for me is to say thank you again for listening, and we'll see you again soon. Bye bye.